Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of the Juicebox Podcast. Well, today's episode is something else. This is Eliza. She's Australian and the mother of a child with type 1 diabetes. I'm going to just tell you now, about 19 minutes into this episode, it takes a really strange turn. So right around the 19-minute mark, maybe a little later, actually, maybe a few minutes later, there's going to be talk of sexual assault, and I wanted to make you ready for that. Nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan. If you're living with type 1 diabetes, the After Dark collection from the Juicebox Podcast is the only place to hear the stories that no one else talks about. From drugs to depression, self-harm, trauma, addiction, and so much more. Go to juiceboxpodcast.com, up in the menu, and click on After Dark. There you'll see a full list of all of the After Dark episodes. If you or somebody in your care has type 1 diabetes and you're a U.S. resident, please go to t1dexchange.org/juicebox and complete the survey. When you do that, you're going to be supporting type 1 diabetes research and supporting the podcast. I think you're going to be helping yourself as well. You'll see when you get there. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by the Eversense CGM. An implantable 6-month sensor is what you get with Eversense, but you get so much more. Exceptional and consistent accuracy over 6 months, and distinct on-body vibe alerts when you're high or low. On-body vibe alerts? You don't even know what that means, do you? EversenseCGM.com/juicebox. Go find out. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by US Med. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. Get your supplies the same way we do from US Med. This show is sponsored today by the glucagon that my daughter carries, Gvoke HypoPen. Find out more at gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox.
Hi, I'm Eliza. I'm a mother of a type 1 who's 7, and I'm a musician and arty person generally. Yeah.
You're an arty person generally?
Yeah. I'm not going to say that I'm an artist because although I've been trained, I don't practice. So I'm not a working artist, but I work in a gallery. So
nice. Yeah. Where was your training?
I went to university. Which here is, the highest form of education in Australia, which is where I'm based in South Australia. And I sort of started here and finished in Sydney. I lived there for a bit, and it's called a Bachelor of Visual Arts or Fine Art and Design or something. Can't remember really.
You can't remember. That's beautiful. That's uplifting for all the parents who are paying for college right now. How old are you, Eliza, that you don't remember exactly what your degree is in?
39.
39. There you go, kids. It takes 20 years to forget what it is you paid for.
Gonna say I forgot a lot more than just that. Yeah.
My gosh.
Baby brain, diabetes brain, something. I'm going to blame those things. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Did you say, I'm sorry, your son, daughter?
Yeah. So Arthur is 7.5. And he was diagnosed at 5.5.
So 2 years for Arthur.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 years in 3 days exactly. So 2 years.
Was there any indication that this could happen, or did it come out of nowhere?
Well, it wasn't indication. It was shock to the whole family, but it presented pretty typically. And I suppose just enough for it to be weird. Like he'd never wet the bed and was drinking like a ton of water and pretty much panic if I took his bottle away, like a water bottle away from him. Like it was constant drinking. And then a couple of nights of wetting the bed and we were like straight to the local, just the family doctor. And I was there for another reason with him getting an asthma action plan because he was just starting his first year of school.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, look, there's this other thing. He's also like wetting the bed and I just want to rule out diabetes. I said, I'm just here to make sure he doesn't have that.
Oh, Eliza, why did you? So first of all, I want to say this. Good job. How do I mean this? I don't, this is not me coming down on other people, but I am shocked when people tell me that their kids, like older children, randomly started wetting the bed and they didn't see that as a crazy sign of something. Like, you know what I mean? But you did. Couple nights wetting the bed, right to the doctor. What made you, what do you know about diabetes that made you ask the question?
Yeah, well, it wasn't on our radar, and I can't say that I knew much, but I knew that. But also my husband, partner, fiance, whatever you want. I'll call him husband because that's the easiest. Not by any kind of religious or legal way, but in this country, a de facto husband is the same anyway. So whatever. Husband, his auntie actually has been diagnosed as a grown-up at the age about 50.
Okay.
Type 1. But we knew nothing about it at the same time because she was living in England. And we just heard about it. And then I think I was chatting to the school mums, we were doing school pickup. I was literally 1 week in. We had I had a few friends and we were chatting with our little kids going into first week of school. How's everyone going? I'm like, Arthur is so tired and so weird. He's just starting wetting the bed. And one of them just looked at me and goes, and I'm like, and he's so thirsty, but it's so hot. It's summer. That's what I was saying. I'm like, but it's a bit of a worry. I was looking up the symptoms on Google, as you do. Diabetes is there, of course, but it's probably just anemia or I was just anything but diabetes, complete denial. But we're definitely going to get him checked out. And yeah, I'd booked an appointment for the following week. So
my 5-year-old probably is anemic.
I was just hoping for anything. Basically, I knew diabetes was the worst, and I was just like,
I got to tell you, if your 5-year-old's anemic, they might have cancer. I think you should have been wishing for the diabetes.
You know what that meant?
Oh, I see.
Anemia in a child. Do you know what I mean? I just read would be just an iron deficiency, or
That's funny. So what? But that's fantastic. How quickly you got to the physician, and they diagnosed him right then and there.
Pretty much, he was the meter just read high, so they did a finger prick, and I said, "Well, what does that mean?" And she just looks at me, and I'm like, "Oh."
Should I call someone? Am I going to start crying?
Yeah.
What's happening?
Yeah, it's diabetes. And I did start crying right then in the office. And, but, probably silent tears so that my kid wasn't freaking out. But then she goes, I'll forward this to the children's hospital, which is only a half-hour drive or 40 minutes. And you're going to go there today. And I said, well, we live 5 minutes from you. Can I pack a bag? And she said, yes, that's okay. Since he's upright, he's talking, he's on his way, but he's not EKA kind of thing. So they said it would be fine. But when he got there, he was definitely not great. He fell asleep sitting up.
Was he in DKA?
They never used the word. I only learnt the word from your podcast, actually.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
Well, I learnt more about it on the podcast. I suppose they may have mentioned it, but it flew over my head because it wasn't something I knew to ask. Was he in DKA?
Right.
They never said he was. Remember the first nurses who were doing the tests and putting a drip in him or whatever they were doing, because don't ask me. It's all a blur. She said, oh, wow, his ketones are 6.1. I usually can smell them when they're that high. So smell them. They said, the kids the breath smells sweet, or I don't know.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was an interesting thing that always stuck in my brain. But then they were all just sort of praising us for catching it before it got bad, and they hinted that it would have gotten bad within hours or days. Yeah. Really bad.
Good for you.
So they were just really pleased. But so it was,
Did that make you feel good by any chance? I mean, not good like a party, but was there,
Yeah, somewhat. Yeah, for sure. It was we felt like we'd at least done what we could, even though, of course, I could have caught it earlier. My God, I look back and he was lethargic and tired for, I felt 2 months, maybe.
Okay.
3 months even. So I can look back at photos and remember a day that he fell asleep weirdly on the beach, before Christmas. Weird, some of those sort of things. And then just thinking I should have picked up earlier, la la la. But,
Yeah, I'm sure you did a good job. It's hard. We figured it out, but Arden was just about dead when we figured it out. So if you take insulin or sulfonylureas, you are at risk for your blood sugar going too low. You need a safety net when it matters most. Be ready with Gvoke HypoPen. My daughter carries Gvoke HypoPen everywhere she goes because it's a ready-to-use rescue pen for treating very low blood sugar in people with diabetes ages 2 and above that I trust. Low blood sugar emergencies can happen unexpectedly, and they demand quick action. Luckily, Gvoke HypoPen can be administered in 2 simple steps, even by yourself in certain situations. Show those around you where you store Gvoke HypoPen and how to use it. They need to know how to use Gvoke HypoPen before an emergency situation happens. Learn more about why Gvoke HypoPen is in Arden's Diabetes Toolkit at gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox. Gvoke shouldn't be used if you have a tumor in the gland on the top of your kidneys called a pheochromocytoma, or if you have a tumor in your pancreas called an insulinoma. Visit gvokeglucagon.com/risk for safety information. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by the Eversense CGM. Eversensecgm.com/juicebox. The Eversense CGM is the only long-term CGM with 6 months of real-time glucose readings, giving you more convenience, confidence, and flexibility. And you didn't hear me wrong. I didn't say 14 days. I said 6 months. So if you're tired of changing your CGM sensor every week, you're tired of it falling off or the adhesive not lasting as long as it should or the sensor failing before the time is up, if you're tired of all that, you really owe it to yourself to try the Eversense CGM. Eversensecgm.com/juicebox. I'm here to tell you that if the hassle of changing your sensors multiple times a month is just more than you want to deal with, if you're tired of things falling off and not sticking or sticking too much or having to carry around a whole bunch of extra supplies in case something does fall off, then taking a few minutes to check out eversensecgm.com/juicebox might be the right thing for you. When you use my link, you're supporting the production of the podcast and helping to keep it free and plentiful. eversensecgm.com/juicebox. I don't know how you guys order your diabetes supplies like CGMs, pumps, and testing equipment, but at our house, we use US Med. And I'm going to walk you through the entire process right now. I'm looking at the email from US Med. It says, "It's time to refill your prescription. Dear Arden, please click the button below to place your next order." Then you click the button. That was it. 2 days later, I got this email. "Thank you for your order from US Med. We wanted to let you know that your order," and it gives you an order number, "was shipped via UPS ground. You can track your package at any time using the link below." And then there was a link, and then it showed up at our house. Now I'm going to walk you through the entire chain of events. On the 29th, which was a Saturday, I clicked on the email. On that Monday, the 1st, I got an email that said the order had been sent. 4 days later, on the 5th, the package arrived. If you can do it easier than that, you go get it. But if you can't, usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. Get started today with US Med. Get your diabetes supplies the same way we do. It's difficult, I think you did a great job. So, that's okay. How long did they keep them in the hospital? They call it, is it in hospital in Australia, or is that a British thing?
we use a the.
You use a
we
the?
say in the hospital.
Good for you. Good for you. Way to come around to this time. So how long did they keep you there?
And it was still COVID-y. So we were, sorry, that's not a real verb.
No, I don't know.
Anyway,
I just wrote it down. I was like, COVID-y. How come no one's ever said that before? Fantastic.
I use a lot of made up words, maybe. COVID-y, that's definitely a thing that was happening in the hospital still. Not as strict as when I'd had my daughter, which was the year that COVID, like 2020 as well. So I've got a 3-year-old girl as well. But
so I'm sorry, Arthur was 5.5 and you had a younger child as well.
yeah, I was breastfeeding a toddler at the time.
Oh,
1-year-old.
that sounds fun.
2-year-old. Oh, that was so much fun. Sleep was, let's not go there.
You got to teach the kid to do something. You got to be like, look, latch on and then hold this meter, okay? When I bring the finger towards it, you touch this. This kid's not helping at all. Come on, just hold the meter. You got to do something.
She liked to grab it, you know.
It's amazing.
No! What's this cricket? No!
I saw a photo the other day of, it was like a meme or it was a breastfeeding meme. God knows why I saw it, but the lady's like trying to breastfeed the kid. The kid's like half upside down and got her heel like in the lady's eye socket, you know, and I'm like, oh, there's a lot going on here.
Yeah. Co-sleeping as well. So at least they were all in the same kind of room vicinity.
You didn't have to walk too far.
Yeah. Yeah, I kept it simple. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to stay in there until I'm comfortable. Leaving the diabetes child alone now. Like, just going to stay.
Jesus. So, I mean, there's a boy somewhere. So do you guys learn together or do you take the reins? How does it go?
Well, Ben, and he was allowed in for the education sessions. We were only allowed one at a time for the bedside care. It was 3 days, I think we were in. Mm-hmm. You asked before, but the education sessions were meant to be 3 business days long. I think she smashed it out in 1 day because we're educated. Is that bad? Is that naughty? She's like, oh, good. You know what a carb is? Well, that is going to make this easier for you.
Boy, that's got to be disheartening, doesn't it? Wait, you've heard of fractions? Woo!
No, she was sweet and we understood because, I mean, she's got to deal with people whose language is other than English is the first language, and then there's just all kinds of levels of education and knowledge of food. And so, yeah, she found us very easy. My partner's like a cook, a chef, so food wasn't something we were scared of learning about. We didn't have to change his diet. We just learned to count the carbs and, you know, move on. So, yeah.
Well, good for you. So you leave with what kind of technology in Australia?
Oh, yeah. I knew that question was coming. And we left with half-unit click pens. So, yeah, pens, a couple of meters. Had Novo Rapid, was the short-acting insulin. And I had Levemir, was the long-acting, split over 2 doses, like morning and evening.
Yeah.
And we had some, like, what are they called? Ratio cards or like a thing, whatever they're called. And we were crazily, and of course I regret this, we were offered the Dexcom on day 2. Like in the education meeting, she would have put it on him.
And you said, no, thank you. No. I don't need that. You won't be sticking that to my child. He's not a robot. Was any of that going through your head?
Not quite, a little bit. A bit of fear. We let her put the Libra 2 on. So we had a couple of options and we thought it was less intrusive / stressful to not kind of have it just like literally every 5 minutes giving us a reading. And for some reason we thought that was going to be a bad thing. 2 weeks later, we got the Dexcom.
Hi, we've made a mistake. Yeah. We're calling back. Hello?
We had a 2-week appointment, checkup, follow-up anyway at the hospital. And yeah, they were great. I mean, I think it was a very, like, I was very happy with the care and the experience. But since learning more, thanks to you, I've see a lot of flaws, even though I know it's better than a lot of people in other parts of the world. If you know what I mean.
So I wake up every morning to, it's right in front of me now. I haven't done it yet because this is earlier than, by the way, it's late at night for you. And I'm like, why are we doing this so early?
What time is it for you?
It's 8 a.m.
Poor thing.
Well, I just don't usually record at 8. I like to.
Yeah, no.
Hey, I like to be awake before I do it.
I'm sorry. I'm being mean.
No, it's okay. I don't feel attacked. But usually I wake up in the morning and there's like this morning, there's 17 new people since like I hate to tell you, I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. So I went to sleep at like 3 o'clock. I don't know why. Actually, I do know why. I was up late working, but I don't like people feeling bad for me because then I get notes. They're like, Scott, take care of yourself. You're going to burn out. That's very sweet, but I'm okay. So I went to bed at 3 because I was working late. I knew I had to get up early for you, so my alarm went off at like 7:45. I have to admit when it went off, or 6:45, I was like, oh, what am I doing? But then I open up, like, get some work done. And for me, part of my work is checking new people wanting to come into the Facebook group and approving their entries if they got stuck somehow and the automation didn't get them through. And every morning, there's 5 or 6 people from Australia. Every morning.
I'm impressed.
Yeah.
I'm pretty impressed with that. I've definitely got a few to you.
I appreciate it. But it freaks me out because I'm like, how do they know about this? But then I guess, how does somebody in Montana know about it? But you know what I mean? So
it's a big world. Yeah. How did I find? So another weird fact was that one of my son's friends in school, his mother is a type 1 since she was 21. So that I had in my brain. And I think she was there when I had this initial chat with the mums. And she said, go onto some support pages on Facebook. And she sent me the link of a couple in Australia. Mm-hmm. From one of those, there were people harping on about yours, the Juicebox. And I don't remember exactly which comment or which page. Okay. But one of them would have mentioned it, and I probably would have got a few people repeated people saying, it sounds like you want to listen, or it sounds like you would really benefit from this episode or this podcast, or they were talking about it, man. Like, they were.
All right. That's what I need.
People.
Well, thank you, everyone. That's how it works. I know I say it a lot, but I have almost no control over the podcast growing. It's you guys. So I really appreciate that.
I'm doing the same. I've got a hardcore fan of yours now. He's starting from number 1. And I'm like, okay.
That's what we need.
Go to the pro tip series.
When I hear that, that's like another 1,000 downloads this year. Excellent.
Greedy for those downloads, aren't you? No.
Listen, if you're a podcaster, and I can't believe I'm a podcaster. It's so ridiculous.
You're so woke, man. Oh, my God.
Listen, if you do this for a hobby, that's lovely. But if you do this and it's paying your bills, and you tell me you're not a whore to those downloads, then I say you're full of shit.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. Not 100% yet. Hey, I've been helping you.
Well, I appreciate that. And I don't mean I'm just making it for numbers so I can sell ads. Like, that's not the point. I actually think about it backwards. I had a business meeting yesterday about a possible new advertiser, and it's an advertisement to spread the word about something that's really valuable for people with type 1 diabetes. And I want to do it, and I'm laying out what the show is, but they need certain numbers or they're not going to be involved. Like, I'm laying it all out, and she go, there was 8 people in the meeting, which seemed really unnecessary, if I'm being honest. But the one person said, geez, she's like, you're almost aggressive about it. I was like, I've had this podcast for 10 years. You think it's because I sit here and just hope it works out? I was like,
well, they're clearly, used to a much more chill vibe from their podcasters.
Can I say they were New York, and I got a lot of that New York vibe from everybody. And look, no shade, but I think everyone knows what I mean. I was like, all right, everybody was a little too cool for the room. Nobody wanted to be excited about anything. I was not professional enough or pretending to be professional enough, whatever it is people do. I have no ability to not be myself. So
that's why I like you so much, Scott. That's why I like your podcast.
Eliza, that's nice of you. But in a meeting with 8 people from a media buying agency, it doesn't look good, I don't think. When I'm just like, I'm like, well, listen, this is going to be a tough sell. What you're trying to do is not easy to get people to understand. But I said, if I can't do it, the good news is nobody else can. They were like, what? So anyway, I don't know how it went.
I can't wait to hear your new ads now. If they,
Yeah, I would tell you what it's for, because I'm going to be like, I'll be proud if it comes on as an advertiser. But now that I talked about them, I don't want to say what it was. So
no, just in case. Don't give them anything free.
I don't want them to be insulted.
Give you
but
money. No.
Yeah, I felt a little judged, but that's okay.
I think you are a good judge of what you should and shouldn't advertise. I think you've proven that.
I'm getting there. So I don't want to take a big left turn, but I'm looking at your notes, and there's a couple of things you wanted to highlight. And the one thing, that one of these things is not like the other. What was that, Sesame Street? Or yeah, there's just one line. It's like a line item in your list where I'm like, I don't understand how this goes with everything else, but it's so serious.
Okay.
Do you want to
read it to me?
Do you want to skip it or tell me?
I'm not looking at the notes, so why don't you read it out?
Well, that's going to be shocking.
What's the line?
Well, here, let me tell you. So that you said the struggle there was that I had to advocate for breastfeeding and nursing while I was caring for a type 1, not getting any sleep. I want to talk about hospital care in Australia. I want to give other people hope and a positive outlook. But then it says dealing with mental health issues and abuse, and you indicate that it's sexual abuse under the same roof while also getting grips on diabetes care. I don't understand that.
That's something we now associate with the diabetes diagnosis year so that's what, 2022. So that's our year from hell. The COVID year is like a walk in the park. That was nothing here in Adelaide, which was like famously low lockdown restrictions and all that. Yeah, sadly, my stepdaughter, so my partner she's now 18. She was 16 at the time, and it was probably 3 months past diagnosis, still very much in survival mode, still very much struggling, a lot of crying, a lot of anxiety around everything and eating and, having to inject your child. And Ben was already a very emotional person. We both are, like, highly emotional, highly kind of passionate, creative types, and just extremely like high emotion heart, like on our sleeves, kind of like we would cry about the diabetes. And then he goes to UK for a grandparent's funeral, and like he's walking in the door and his 16-year-old breaks down and tells him that she's in a relationship and she's being raped by her boyfriend, who she's been trying to dump for months, and that he's been letting himself in with a key to our house and letting himself into her bedroom and lacing her weed with, I don't even know what, but something like Xanax or something comes into my mind, like something that shouldn't be smoked was being put in, like it was like another bomb hit the house.
Oh my God.
And then ricocheted through, like, it was horrible.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. That's horrible's not a good enough word. These two they were dating?
They had been dating for nearly 2 years, and he'd been in our family home and fully at birthdays, and we try to include him, and they'd been high school sweethearts for a while. Came out that it wasn't the first time that she'd been abused, and she'd also been abused at 13. And the roller coaster just kept like going, man. Like,
yeah, what does that do to the house? I mean, she's obviously getting it off her chest, which is terrific, and trying to move forward from it.
Yeah.
But does your partner, like, I mean, is there a dead kid in your backyard now? Anything like that?
Nearly. Yeah, I would say that it could have happened. It was certainly something he wanted to do, which he was open to me about, that he said he didn't know if he bumped into this kid at the mall, that he wouldn't just bash him to death, basically, with his bare hands, because his baby was like, violated and
so hurt.
In such a horrible way. He was in 2 years, and some normality is now like back with him.
How was she?
So we've been, and she was bad for a long time, but I almost thought it was better because we didn't know what was going on. But she was like cutting, self-harming for years, since about 13, and such bad mental health, she was diagnosing herself. She's been doing that since she was 13, but really, I mean, from my perspective, it's that she's just, been traumatized and abused.
Of course.
And so she's got post-traumatic fucking stress disorder or some shit. But she's diagnosing herself with, I'm BPD. What's that? Borderline personality disorder, because I've got all those symptoms. I'm depressed. I'm suicidal. I think of death. I idolize, ideation. So she was going through a horrible time, and it took a while to come out of that. She thinks she's in a good place now, though. So that is good.
I'm glad. Did you all not know? I guess you didn't know about that from the time she was 13.
No, we just knew that things got really horrible, but we actually just thought it was like teen angst.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. So I don't know what to call him. The boy, the guy, the husband, the partner. You messed me up by calling him 7 things at the beginning, and now I don't know what to say. But
I'm sorry.
so he flies to England for a grandparent's funeral, comes home to you breastfeeding and helping a newly diagnosed 5-year-old, and then this comes
my own for
yeah
3 weeks. Was it 3 weeks?
Oh my gosh! Then this comes out. It's all piled on top of each other.
Yeah.
He's having murderous thoughts, which I applaud, by the way. Do you go to the police? How do you handle that?
We don't, but so he calls the police, but it doesn't mean anything unless she makes a statement, which she hasn't still, but she still might.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that'll have a lot of bearing. She was seeing a psychologist at the time, and Ben called the psychologist and asked for her because she was quite a sort of well-known one in the area for this type of help, like with teens going through abuse, like victims and things. So she was already seeing someone who probably knew before us, to be honest, about what had been happening. And then they said to try a crisis centre, some mixed advice on what to do to help everyone. But in terms of legality, there's no charges. He's just out there doing whatever he wants.
Do you think he's done it to other people prior?
Well, he was dealing drugs in the school. This is a Catholic school, by the way.
Mm.
We're not religious, but her grandparents were paying, and they are. Regret. Go to the local school. That's what we should have done. There is nothing to do now. It's all in the past. But what was the question?
No, I just didn't know if you had found out that this was something he was doing to other people prior.
Found out anything. Phone calls were made very fast to the parents, though, by my partner. They were obviously pretty skeptical for a while, but there were some dubious texts and screenshots that his daughter had, so he sent those on as some sort of evidence. I don't think much would hold up in court because she was also actually drugged for so much of it. Her memory is so foggy.
Yeah.
She just knows that she'd been violated, if you know what I mean, and she felt violated, and he got stalky and stuff, but he denies it all.
Wow.
From the get-go, denied everything. So
I have to tell you, there's a lot of things I didn't expect when I started a diabetes podcast, but that I have had 3 separate conversations in the last 4 weeks about, I tried not to use the word, right, but about sexual assault. It almost feels commonplace sometimes, and I just think
it is. Yeah.
And it's another invisible thing, sort of. It's funny, in the beginning of this episode, before I knew this was going to come up, I was like, I'm going to call this episode Arthur and the Invisible Illness. I was like, because of the movie, it's going to be catchy. We're going to love it. And then as you're telling this story, I'm like, this is an invisible thing too. But I, of course, am not going to make a title out of it. There's so many things happening to people all the time, all over the place, that you're just unaware of, And then your whole family probably gets thrown into that cauldron with her and her, I guess her mental struggles after this. Now you're watching her go through it and him go through it. He's got this realization about his daughter and all this harm. There's your son with type 1. The injustice.
He's got, so he's now he's jet lagged. He's arrived, he's jet lagged. He's been thrown into trauma, and he's now struggling to even do basic human functions for about a year.
Yeah.
So he's so consumed that helping with diabetes has only started a year after that. So
right. And
I've been doing a lot of it on just my own, really. So yeah, I went miles ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would imagine, even though you would understand his predicament, you probably begin to resent that at some point as well. I mean, resent might be a strong word, but you know what I mean?
No, it's not wrong. I couldn't help myself. I was struggling, it was hard. 3 weeks was hard, and then it came back. It was almost worse. I had this whole other thing that was there, who needed caring for, who was trying not to have a breakdown, who had many, in fact. threatened to punch my dad in over Christmas, and he's 80 in his own home. He threatened to, effing smash your head in, and, like, just completely off his rocker. Like, this person that I'm apparently having, got 2 kids with and spending my rest of my life with was just this, had no control, couldn't anything together. It was just.
Yeah, I would imagine when the person you have 2 kids with says, "Hey, it's Christmas, we should beat up your 80-year-old father," you're probably like, uh-oh. Darn it.
Look, I nearly didn't stay through many thoughts of escape.
Mm-hmm.
And I have strategies in place to escape. And I also had fear of him. The outbursts, there were things thrown at times. Alcohol was being used to self-medicate as well as weed. And I didn't always feel safe. And my therapist said that she didn't think the kids were safe and was trying to make me lay down some pretty thick, rules, and saying you need to, like, go live somewhere else 3 days a week to give us a break, kind of thing.
Yeah, it sounds like it was on the edge. But now this is a couple years later. Do you characterize, like, anything in your life like it was before, or has everything changed?
I feel like I'm still not really recovered seeing this other side of my partner. I feel like it's still difficult because any stress that comes up, it still sparks a lot of. He's always had a bit of anger management problems, so I suppose it's too easy to trigger things. I'm also, like, such a committer. Like, I'm really committed. And, like, people think, like, maybe I shouldn't commit to some people that I've committed to in the past.
I know people personally who are going through similar things, and there's part of me that thinks, like, look at them, like, working hard to hold it together and, like, to fix things and, turn the lights back on, come out the other side, that kind of stuff. And then there is times where you're like, maybe you ought to just cut bait and run, But I also am from a divorced family, and I grew up believing that I wish my parents would have done something different and tried something different. Because I don't see, we didn't trade a bad thing for a good thing. We traded a bad thing for a different bad thing.
Yep.
Yep.
And honestly, I listened intently to interviews, like, with Erica and, like, the co-parenting and the one about the divorcing or what to do. And when, like, their last statement was basically, if you can avoid it, do. Like, the separating. And she said that, like, quite strongly in one of those episodes.
Yeah, that was her, right? Not me that said that.
That was her.
Yeah.
That was her. And it right at a time that I was, like, really, like, a precipice about it. You know what I mean? And I, like, okay, like, it deserves more time. Like, I'm like hearing messages to, like, I should try harder, or I should be more patient. I'm so freaking tolerant, though. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I put up with so much, and that's what my friends don't like to see. Some of them, they're just like, you put up with too much. It's like another child for you. You don't need to have to look after everyone else's problems in the house and la la la.
Does he go to therapy?
Sporadically, yeah.
Yeah, maybe you should make that a more, like, weekly thing, and say, does he know what his issues are? Like, if he was here right now and I said, yeah, you have anger issues and blah, he'd go, I know, or he'd be like, no, I don't.
He would say, I know.
Okay. Yeah. Well, then work harder at getting rid of it, because this is going to ruin our relationship. Like, have you ever told him that?
Yeah. Confrontation is my favorite thing. We've had some big talks, but I don't like to bring things up, but he has a lot of goals to always be improving. Like, when he's in a good place. So right now he's in a good place. We visited the family in the UK for Christmas. That trip was a nightmare. It was very triggering for him. Don't want to talk about that. La, la, la. Traumatic for me. Mm-hmm. Looking after the kids again the whole time. But it was like, la, la, la. Everything's great. And I'm like, that was so hard. I'm recovering. Like, this is amazing. Now we're home. I feel so pumped. I'm going to get on a health kick. I'm going to lose all this weight. I'm gonna, yeah, deal with my shit, like,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like,
I had somebody approach me recently, and I mean, I've been very honest about it on the podcast, but I've used a GLP to lose weight, and I've lost like 50 pounds. So I saw
I've
somebody
been listening.
Yeah, thank you. So I saw somebody the other day who I hadn't seen in a while, and they were like, "Oh my God, like it's such a, like, you look terrific." And I was like, "Thank you." They said, "How much have you lost?" And I said, "About 50 pounds." And they were like, "No, I don't, like, that's not possible." So I have to have this same conversation with people over and over again, that I weighed a lot more than I looked like I weighed.
What is that in kilos? Sorry.
Hold on a second. You're going to make me use
You've
the
got
internet.
Your keyboard there.
Hold on. 50 pounds in kilos. Is that kg? Is that what that is?
Yeah, kg.
22.6 kilograms is 50 pounds.
Okay. But what were you to start with in kg?
I know. I'm going to give it to you. Hold on a second. You're very, very demanding. 106.5.
Oh, it's very similar.
Okay. And so I'm 5'9", and I'm probably 70 pounds over the obese limit as far as the healthcare standards go. Now, when you say that to people, they go, "Oh, those are ridiculous." Guess what? They're kind of not, because I was 235. I stood in front of a doctor and I said, "I have to lose weight. I'm going to die." And she goes to me, "Lose weight? What do you mean?" And like, I had to stand up in the office. I took my sweatshirt off. I was like, "How much do you think I weigh?" And she said 175 pounds, which would have been 79 kilos. So she assumed I weighed, she assumed I weighed 79 when I was 106. Wow. Because I just, when you hear people say, "Oh, they carry the weight well," but I don't even think that's it. I think that's bullshit now that I have lived through this weight loss of the last year. I think what happens is, first of all, it's like that slow drip. You don't, the old thing where you can put a frog in a pot of cold water and heat it up slowly, and it'll sit there and happily boil to death. But, so
lovely.
Yeah, you just don't.
Thank you for that analogy.
Thank you. Yeah. That's actually true. But if you throw the same frog into boiling water, it'll jump right out. If you take somebody towards something slowly enough, they'll become used to it as they go, and they won't rebel against it, which is probably an euphemism for your relationship. But let's get past that. And so no one knows how fat I am. I don't know. I don't see it when I look in the mirror. People who look at me don't know
how fat you
were. Thank you. And so, so this person's like, "Well, oh gosh, like I need to lose weight like that." And I said, "You should call your doctor and see if your insurance covers this." And the person says, "I know what to do." And I'm like, "You know what to do to call the doctor?" Like, I thought we were talking about a GLP medication. And they say, no. Like, "I know what to do, how to eat and exercise to get rid of this." And I said, "Are you over 50 years old?" And they said, "Yeah." And I'm like, "How come you haven't done it for the last 30 years? And she looks back at me and I went, "You're not going to do it. I wasn't going to do it. You're not going to do it. It's not going to happen. I know you know how. That's meaningless. You're going to have a heart attack." I was like, "Do it or don't. It's up to you." You know what I mean? But like, don't stand here and go, "Oh, everything's okay," because everything's not okay. I weigh 100. This morning I was 187. So hold on, 97, 207, 17, 27. Yeah, I've lost. I'm sorry. I counted on my fingers by tens, and you can go f yourself if you don't like it. Okay. And so,
I thought you were manually trying to convert that to kg for me. I'm like, "Oh my God.
No, that's not going to happen.
Than I thought.
I don't have that kind of prowess. And I thought you knew I was counting on my fingers. So I've lost 48 pounds. And I'm telling you right now, it's not body dysmorphia. I'm still fat. Like, I have what I'm guessing is 15 more pounds to lose. But to be perfectly honest with you, it could be more. I have no idea. And so, and I learned that I'm the worst judge of it, because at 235, I thought I just need to lose 20 pounds.
So you are aiming for that 170-ish or 160 or 170.
I am aiming not to be able to grab a handful of fat on me anywhere. That's what I'm aiming for. Okay?
Go you. I don't know about this drug.
Only Nicki Minaj needs that, because she's making a living off her ass, but I'm not. So, I don't want to be able to grab a handful of fat somewhere. Like, that's when I'll be okay. That's when I'll know I'm I'm healthy.
It's a good goal.
Yeah, that's all. I don't care about the number is. It could be 2 more pounds. It'd be fine with me. I don't care about the weight.
I need to too. No, but we've both got it. So we're on like a health kick.
Good for you.
Even my son, so he started putting on a bit too much weight, I'd say over just like the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, oh, is it insulin? Like, is it part of the fact that he's taking this like artificial insulin? Is it causing weight gain? Certainly seems to make him hungry, so hungry.
It could be. Also, there's that whole thing about amylin, which I still have to go into, but type 1s and hunger are not uncommon.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah. Amylin is a 37 amino acid peptide hormone that is co-secreted with insulin by the pancreatic beta cells in response to a nutrition stimulus. It is deficient in patients with type 1 diabetes and elevated in patients with early type 2 diabetes. So that's just a thing. Like, that's true. You know, they used to, back in the day, give type 1s amylin, and they just not give it to them. I got to remember the old heads that have been on here and talked about it. It was in one of the insulins.
Wow.
And it's not anymore. And so,
interesting.
I mean, listen, Arden started using just 1/4 milligram of a GLP weekly, and she's probably lost 15 pounds. And you wouldn't look at her and think Arden needed to lose weight, but she had weight to lose, and it came off.
Any GLP sponsors yet?
No. You know, pharma companies don't sponsor things. It's device manufacturers do. Pharma companies don't usually. Yeah. They should, because I lost 48 pounds.
You talk about it a lot. Like, you really are you're doing well on it. Like, I always want to know more. I haven't Googled it yet. Like, what is this? Is it safe? Is it natural? Like, what is this?
You know what? You know what's less safe than this? A heart attack when I'm 55.
Yeah.
I'm not pushing it. I think it's coming. Like, I think you're going to see it widespread. Like, wait till you hear some of the episodes that are coming up with people, type 1s using it, and their insulin needs are dropping significantly. My daughter's using a lot less insulin, and she's not even on what they would consider a therapeutic dose of it. She's taking a little tiny bit of it.
Wow.
So.
Oh, I love it. This is one of the best things about your podcast, and what, like, you just gather this like wealth of kind of what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love the hope that all the technology and the advances, and listening to that part of it is so good. And
I'm glad.
I've just built Loop. I just built it.
Oh, good for you.
I just finished. I literally finished it like 2 nights ago, put it on his phone. We haven't activated it yet, and I want to build Caregiver first. And, you know, like, we're about to start that process because we've been on the Dash with Fiasp for a year. Oh, not Fiasp for a year, but on the Dash pods for a year. And wouldn't consider any tube pump. I must have started listening to your podcast very early on.
Yeah.
So it must have been very, very soon into diagnosis, because I can't remember not having it as this like guiding light. Like, as soon as I started listening to those pro tips, I was asking all these questions.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm so happy.
Types of insulin, like, you know.
I'm very happy that it helps. I actually, there's a post in the Facebook group right now. It's just people who are like just sharing their story about, like, I put up the post. I was like, hey, if the group's been valuable to you, can you let me know how? Because every once in a while, I need to like reorient myself. This is going to sound weird, or I don't know, like I'm up my own ass, but every once in a while, I need to reorient myself with what it is I do and like who I am in this equation between you guys listening and me. Do you know what I mean? Because like, it can get on cruise control sometimes. Like, I make the podcast and I do this and I do that. And like, every once in a while, like, I got to remind myself that it's helping people, you know, because I get lost in the making it sometimes.
It is very much helping people. Don't ever forget it.
No, I can't, because the messages that got put up are just.
You've got them in stone now.
Oh, it's just wonderful.
You can have them etched.
I can't, you know, I read every one of them. They're all really impactful and interesting, but it's sometimes hard to believe they're talking about me, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, I try to do that thing Have you ever heard presidents talk about this? Like there's a distinction between me and the office. Like when I'm doing something difficult, I like to think of it as the office of the president doing it, not me.
I understand. Yeah.
My brain works that way, not for the same reason. Like I just try to keep it like the show. The show helps people. Because if not, then I'm some douchebag running around going, how did I help you? Like, like tell me how great I am. And I don't mean that, and I don't feel that, and I don't need that. I do need to be reminded.
Bigger than you.
Yeah, it is.
You now.
It really
it's
is.
Not just you, is it? Because I mean, not only do you have amazing guests like Jenny and Erica and all these series that you've put together with your helpers like Isabel and all the Nikos and all the people on Facebook, but you've got like people have been living with it, and it's just a wealth of knowledge, and I just couldn't imagine life without it, and I just keep preaching it to everyone.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm so happy it works for you. Yeah, and you're not wrong, by the way. It's like I took it to a certain level, and then adding the Facebook group was another dimension, and then it got so big that I couldn't foster it really. Like it was me. Like I would get on every day and just be like, I'd run through and answer as many questions as I could and like point people to episodes of the podcast. And like, it was like, I was working like 24 hours a day. And then we just added a couple of like group experts and, a moderator. Isabel's terrific. And the group experts are amazing. There's at this point, too many of them to list right now. And they're just people donating their time who are jumping into like threads and being like, hey, I see your question. You should try this episode, or this series will help with that, or like that kind of thing. And then.
Well, you've been referred to as a cult by my partner when he was in his dark moments.
Oh.
You and your fucking cult, that diabetes fucking cult,
He would have punched me. If I saw
mate, he was ready to fucking kill anyone. Yeah.
I get invited to Australia every once in a while. I didn't know I was going to get beat up when I got there if I went.
Laughs, barrel of laughs in his dark hours. But no, he sees how it's helped Arthur and his like A1C, and the hospital just keep telling him that I'm doing an amazing job. Mm-hmm. So I just go with that. I'm like, the evidence is there. It's not a cult.
These people say otherwise, and you seem angry, so we're not listening to you. So, hey, Eliza, what's he angry about? Something happened to him in his childhood?
Look, I think there's abandonment issues. Yeah. Some abandonment stuff with his parents. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's forgiving them still. So I think he's having trouble with forgiving.
Okay.
We talk about it. I talk about it with his mum. It's all quite open. We have talked about a lot of it as something that he probably should look at. But because he also grew up in a big, rough city, it's like growing up in New York. He grew up in London, and it was not a well-to-do suburb. It was a rough suburb.
Yeah.
And it was rough, and he got beat up, and he's had his stolen from him, and kids down the street would steal his toys, and he was the only kid on the street who had birthday parties, and so I think he had just a bit of a rough time, and because of the sensitive nature of his genes or genetic makeup has caused him to become who he is today. I mean, not everyone turns out. I know you always like to think about that nature nurture. How much is genes and how much is your environment making you?
Yeah. Sometimes you don't have a chance. Hey, maybe you should just move to a continent instead of stop living on islands. Like, is that possibly your problem? Like, is he nervous?
This is actually an island continent.
Oh, whatever. It's surrounded by sharks, and you open your toilet, and sometimes there are spiders and snakes in it. So I don't know what you're doing.
Maybe in, other parts, not here in Adelaide.
Have you heard me ever interview an Australian person where I was like, come on, tell me, you've opened your toilet and seen a spider before? And they go, yes, that's happened. And I'm like, see?
Hasn't happened to me.
If it did, you'd be on a plane and getting the hell out of there. You'd be like, my friends are right. I need to separate from you people. Goodbye.
It cost me $7 for like 6 months.
Oh, never mind.
Dexcom is free. Dexcom's completely free until 21, and then it's $30 a month.
Oh, I'll fight a spider for that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm talking, it is great.
Wow, hell,
the
that's
healthcare
amazing.
system is really good. Everything was just given to us on a platter.
All right, I'm on my way.
Yeah.
Will they pay for the
Not
GLP?
a financial concern.
Will they pay for GLP medications, or have they not come there yet?
I'm going to have to ask. Yeah. It's a lot more support for children, of course. Everything's cheaper if you're a concession. You got a concession card and through the public health system. And if you're a child, it's free and la la la. It gets harder as you get a bit older, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm tired of paying for stuff, so I'm coming to Australia. Makes sense.
Right, mate, do it. It's fantastic here.
Is it really?
The sun is a lot of sunshine.
I mean, I did like the idea that you were on the beach at Christmas. That sounded nice.
Yeah, we usually have a swim. Christmas Day.
But there's sharks, right?
Well, you don't have to swim out where they swim.
How do they know where to swim and where not to swim?
No, they are large and they don't come shallow.
Yeah.
I always think you had it coming. If you go out there and you're doing something in the water, then that's in there.
Had it coming.
You know? We're land animals.
You've drawn a sturdy line between the common sense of a surfer and what they deserve. You're like,
I didn't say deserve, but like
I think you did. Didn't you say that? Did you not say you've got it coming?
All right. You knew the risks. I'll replace that with, okay, you knew the risks. If you go out into the big sea, then, you know, the big animals are there. Like if you go on a plane or go in a car, they're a risk.
I hear you. I'm telling you right now, I saw a video the other day on one of the Tickgram things. It was a bunch of sharks swimming in what looked like a lake, not an ocean. There was an alligator in the picture. A bunch of people with Australian accents are like, get away from the whatever they were saying. And then one of the sharks bit the goddamn, is it a crocodile or not? It's a crocodile.
Crocodile.
Bit the crocodile. I was like, what the fuck is happening? Like, why are these people near this? Why does this exist?
To be honest, that's probably about kilometre away place from here. So the whole of Europe fits in Australia. If you talk about Australia, it's like talking about many countries.
No,
because
sure.
It's so big.
Oh, it's huge, yeah.
So we're in the south and we don't have crocodiles at all. There's no crocodile. You can swim in all the oceans. Where we live, it's one giant beach. It's all swimmable. It's a paradise.
All right. I mean, I hear what you're saying. Australia is huge. Australia is like as big as America, right? Almost.
I haven't looked at the compare maps on that one. I should have.
I'll do it. Hold on a second. Yeah. No, it's freaking huge. It's like a real place.
It is. It's really big.
Yeah.
It is. It's huge. Not a whole lot of people in comparison to other places, but there's a lot of desert and a lot of just empty spaces.
All right. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but there was like 50 sharks and a crocodile in one video, and there was a boat in the water, and the boat wasn't big, and the people were on it. And I'm like, what is happening? What are you doing? Go home. Like, stop drinking in public with your camera out is what I was thinking, too. Like, my God.
Everyone's got a story to tell. Everyone's telling a story. You can choose which stories to watch.
Eliza, I might be a boring person.
You want to fearmonger stories? That's your choice.
I might be a boring person, but vacuum your rug, make a meal, go to bed, get up, do some work, smile, have sex, take a shower. That's it. Stop with the crocodiles. Do you know what I mean? Like, my goodness.
I agree. Enough drama. I don't need more.
No, it's enough. What are you doing? Life's hard enough.
Yeah.
You got to go find a place where sharks have the ability to bite a crocodile and then get involved.
You can live a normal, boring, good life here.
All right.
Is cheap.
Where? What town would I go to live a normal, boring, good life in Australia?
Adelaide. Perth.
Perth? Is that what you said? It sounds like you didn't want to say the H.
Adelaide, Perth.
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 I know what it is.
It's a bit smaller.
I'm just making fun of your accent. I'm sorry.
I haven't been there, but it's... Oh, are you now? Okay.
You were
all
like
right,
Perth.
fine.
You were like Perth. I'm like, I think she means that Perth, but maybe I'm saying it wrong. Okay.
To pronounce your R's quite so strongly, like that's just you guys.
Hey, here's something interesting. Adelaide Kane is an Australian actress. Maybe she was named after the place.
Did you know that Sia is born and raised here and my mom is her godmother?
Wait a minute. We've been talking for 59 minutes. I have a hard out in 5 more minutes, and Sia's your godmother, and this is just coming up?
No, my mum is her godmother.
Your mom is Sia's godmother. It's 50 minutes in this. I've got 5 more minutes to talk, and it's just got, again, Eliza, f*** you. How come you didn't lead with that?
Stop right there. I'll just lay one more bomb on you because you're going to wish you had more time. My mum, again, her first cousin is Nick Cave.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
I don't understand. How did all this happen?
I know. What can I say?
Wait, okay. So the Nick Cave thing, I have to admit, I don't care as much about because, you know.
I know that you're a fan of Sia, so I thought I would just tell you.
But the Sia thing is insane. That lady is very, very talented.
Of course.
How does this happen? So your mom's friends with somebody?
Well, Sia's mother and my mother are best friends since the 70s.
Jesus Christ. And now you're telling me. Okay, that's fine. Have you met Sia?
Well, yeah.
And?
No, you see, the thing is, I wasn't sure I wanted to say it, but if I just knew you were such a fan of her.
Let me gush for a second here. Sia did a thing that never gets done. And she did it well, and it's amazing. She wrote new Christmas music.
Yeah.
And it's not vomitous. You know what I mean by vomitous, right? And and it's not, it's catchy and it's lovely and young people like it as well as older people. Like she wrote modern Christmas music that everybody knows. That's nearly impossible to do. And it's very impressive. If you don't know the Sia Christmas album and it's Christmas time and you want Christmas music, you're making a huge mistake if you don't just, I'm not lying, right?
No, you're true. She's incredibly talented. I knew her as a teenager, so I was like 8 and she took me out for ice cream and we had a after that.
Wait, you faded away. You had what after that?
Oh, it was a very relationship after she moved away, but I really, she tried to give me her keys when I was living in London to stay in her empty flat when I visited there when I was 18, and then because she's a family friend, she was trying to help out. And then I met up with her when she visited Sydney and I had a picnic with her and some buddies over there. I was only like early 20s. And then, one more time after that, like it's someone that I sent an email to occasionally. It was like, oh, hey, I'm in this band. I think you'd love it. And like, I'm singing. You've always really inspired me. And, just been inspired by her. Yeah. But she's amazing. I know.
Well, you're pissing me off with this story. I don't know why it's making me upset. Why? You wish
we could have talked about Sia the whole time.
Oh my God.
But the problem the problem is there, Scott, is that I feel like this cheap name dropper. Like I feel like
I understand. I understand. I'm sure
I'm not like that.
She'll never hear this. It'll be fine.
Really.
Imagine Sia.
Yeah, I don't feel like that's cool, Like, I don't think that's being cool.
Yeah. Imagine Sia knows somebody that gets type 1 diabetes and years from now she's listening to a podcast about type 1 trying to understand it. She goes, they're fucking talking about me on this podcast. And so
it's true. It's true.
No, I would have spent 15 minutes talking about how like Sia was a songwriter before she started singing her own stuff, or she did, and it wasn't like she didn't get out in front of it a lot and push it.
It wasn't that. Yeah, it didn't go off. So she did quite a few albums, and I loved all her early stuff. I got them all, and then she just started writing for everyone else. Like, oh, here's a song for you. Here's a song for you. All the pop stars.
Oh my God,
and then. Like all of them.
Yeah, her album with Bird Set Free on it is really wonderful. Like top to bottom, it's a great album. I don't know if people know this, but she writes the song and then she lays down a demo track, and that's how they sell it. So if you go listen to Rihanna singing Diamonds, Rihanna is doing an impression of Sia's demo track.
The only one I've heard with actually like Sia's still on it. And that she's not credited either.
No, she wrote that.
Like you can
hear. Yeah, you have to dig up the demo track
but you
online.
can also hear them. Like you can hear it.
Yeah, like all those like kind of weird runs and like affects on her voice.
Yeah, the way she sings is so unique.
Yeah. So Rihanna is literally she's mimicking the demo track. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
Like I don't say that in a bad way. It's really interesting. So yeah, it would be like if someone like tried to pick up my Philly accent or whatever my accent is now that I live between Philly and New York. And like, and and tried to mimic it. Like Rihanna heard that and was like, I'm just going to sing it with all the affectation that she has in it. And it's exactly the same. It's very crazy. Anyway. All right.
Like,
well,
the song wasn't going to be any good without it sounding like Sia, basically.
I think so too. Yeah. No, it's not the words and the tune as much as it is how it's being sung, but just really cool. Okay. Well, now I basically feel like I'm Sia's best friend because I spoke to you.
Hey, six, what's it called? 6 degrees of separation. It's just gotten a lot shorter
That's
for you.
Exactly
there.
right. My Kevin Bacon. It's 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. All right. I don't know what to call this episode.
I hate him. Oh my God.
You don't like Kevin Bacon? What has he done to you? I have 2 minutes. What has Kevin Bacon done to you?
Just pudding.
Kevin Bacon's off-putting. You know, he lost a vast amount of his money, him and Kira Sedgwick, in the Bernie Madoff pyramid scheme.
I don't follow entertainment news. I just remember never liking any of it.
That's not entertainment news. That was a massive, financial fraud.
I don't follow
All right. Well, I mean, I don't either. It's just I just know a lot of stuff. I don't know why I know this stuff. Perfectly honest with you, it's a lot. My brain's being wasted on knowing that Kevin Bacon and Kira Sedgwick were taken down by Bernie Madoff.
I don't have space for that, Scott. There's no space in my brain for that. That's going in one out and out the other.
You got enough going on. I don't think you need that.
I'm fine. I'm doing great.
I apologize for having to jump off, but I have to go be a good spouse now. So I have a real opportunity not to get yelled at if I get off this recording right now and go do something.
I'm sad we couldn't keep chatting longer.
Me too. Also, if Australia's listening, please get better internet access. I like talking to people in Australia, but my God, is it tough. Like, what is it? Like, you got one cable running under the ocean to China or something like that? Like, what in the hell? Jeez.
Yes, that's the truth. No, like, seriously.
No. I'm being serious.
It's shocking.
All it makes me think is New Zealand must be really in trouble. They're trying to use the internet.
Yes.
Oh my God. That's terrible. Like, your internet sucks. I feel like it's 70 years ago when I'm talking to you.
Everything is behind here. Honestly, it's
Yeah.
No,
I don't know.
behind.
All right.
Yeah.
I got to go. You were terrific. Thank you for sharing all this with me. You know, if
Thank
you can get better.
For being you.
Oh,
and thanks for the podcast.
that was way too nice, but thank you. I'll talk to you. Hold on one second because I'll say goodbye to you when we're not recording. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast was sponsored by US Med. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. Get started today with US Med. Links in the show notes, links at juiceboxpodcast.com. A huge thank you to one of today's sponsors, Gvoke Glucagon. Find out more about Gvoke HypoPen at gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox. You spell that GVOKEGLUCAGON.com/juicebox. The conversation you just enjoyed was brought to you by US Med. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. Get started today and get your supplies from US Med. All right, kids, we're done. We're at the end. Just do me one last favor. If you can, if you could, please. If you have the need or the desire for something that one of the sponsors is providing, please use my links or my offer codes. They help the show so much. And that means me. You're helping me to make this podcast every day. You're helping me to support the private Facebook group, do all the things that I'm doing. I'm not asking you to buy something you don't want or something you don't need. But if you're going to get one of these items, use my links or my offer codes. They help me a ton. Thank you so much for listening and for supporting. I really do genuinely appreciate it. I'll be back very soon with another episode. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be back very soon with another episode of the Juicebox Podcast. If you're not already subscribed or following the podcast in your favorite audio app like Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please do that now. Seriously, just to hit follow or subscribe will really help the show. If you go a little further in Apple Podcasts and set it up so that it downloads all new episodes, I'll be your best friend. And if you leave a 5-star review, I'll probably send you a Christmas card. Would you like a Christmas card? The episode you just heard was professionally edited by Wrong Way Recording. WrongWayRecording.com.